Hi everyone, and welcome to this special interview with Mark Tan. I'm Kazal, and I'm an NFC researcher at NFT Go and your host today. We're thrilled to have Mark with us. Mark is an expert in community-driven product development, and prior to entering Web3, he was actually a part of Amazon and also a part of Twitch. So it's so great to be here with you today, Mark. Thank you for being with us.
Yeah, thanks, Giselle, for having me here.
Yes, okay, so I want to first start with a bit of background, and I want to start with a question that I think is a pretty good revealer of somebody. So, can you tell us your story and what got you here?
Sure. So I love building consumer products, growing communities, and I've been a product manager and community lead for over 10 years. I've been part of both early stage startups and large tech. And around the most recent history is in 2018, I joined a smart home startup called Wise, and I helped grow our mobile app and community programs there. And then over time, I learned the value of inviting your community members into product building because a lot of our efforts are around beta testing and hardware testing and app testing, and we needed help from other people. So, yeah, that's the reason why I fell in love with community-led mindset. And then when Web3 become really a buzz last year, especially with the NFT peak, I saw the value of bringing together people to push for something, and that started the Web3 journey as well.
Wow, that's really incredible. Yeah, and your background is very well suited for the ecosystem that we're living in today, like Web3 and all of that is all about community. So, but the question might be for some people is out of all the like marketing strategies that other people like have, why does community first product development is the um, fundamental thing for you?
So there's a couple of reasons why, right? So number one is you're designing the products for your people, so it's very important for you to get feedback from them. So a user-centric approach is effective because it makes sure that you're building something that people would want. So one is product market fit. Number two is you speed up your growth as well because the more feedback or the faster the feedback loop, the better you can iterate and move and improve your product. So very similar to the first one, but the second one talks more about the timing. And then finally, the third one is when you have advocates and community backing you, they can be your advocate. They can be your advocates by the time you launch or by the time you improve it. Meaning, they also become your ambassadors and marketers that can help you amplify whatever you're working. So, like these three combinations of like having this that user mindset allow you will allow you to scale faster and extend your team to include these people.
Yeah, really awesome. And I think like the thing that's very catchy in community first mindset is network effects, and the fact that like for Web 2 it was all about social media and it was about people marketing for Facebook or Twitter or stuff like that just by using them. So community first is really powerful, but I guess very underrated. And it's so great that you are actually focusing on this thing. And yeah, we need more education on that for sure. So there are a lot of like businesses that try to implement these kinds of strategies, but don't really succeed well. What is, in your opinion, like the thing that business people often get wrong about their customers and their communities?
Yeah, so I think if you're looking at something more on a strategy level, I think the biggest mistake is thinking of customers as a sales strategy, meaning thinking of various implementations to push for sales towards your community, because community can sense it. So like people get turned off when you post something to promote like all the time, and when companies do that repeatedly, it becomes really annoying. So I think the biggest mistake is just thinking of these people as someone that you can promote your products all the time, and because it's beyond that. So your community can be part of the product building process itself, and I don't think companies think about that. In fact, when they define communities, it's all about community as a mode once the product is built, but actually you can involve them much earlier in the process.
Yes. Yeah. So let's switch gears a bit and zoom into Web3 and what you are actually doing today. And I saw that you later in 2021 tweeted that you are officially quitting your job to go all in on Web3. So uh, why and like how did that decision come to you? Yeah.
It's more of a pull. So the more I was looking at uh, resources and developments happening in Web3, the more time I'm spending there. So towards the later part of last year, I was just reading all about Web3 all the time, uh, the whether it's the financing aspect of it, the technology side, or or organization side. So yeah, after at that point, I know that if I do something consistently for more than a week or like a month or so, and that keeps me up at night looking at different materials, then I know that's something that I'm excited about. So yeah, in the end, I decided to spend a little bit more time exploring DAOs, and that's what got me here.
That's really amazing. And like many people are seeing this Web 2 to Web 3 transition as a sort of like a financial transition. But I guess from your perspective and from like the community perspective, if we look at it, um, basically we are redefining what it means for communities to participate in building something. And that's very present in the concept of DAOs, as you talked about. So, especially in DAOs, what was your kind of like first reaction when you heard about DAOs? Like, did you think like, oh my God, this is such an amazing thing, and this is what I've been telling all the business people, like, go and let your community build something for you, and or it was just like, this is gonna be a mess. How was that reaction?
I think it's in that order. So I thought like, okay, this is exactly what I'm doing. In fact, I was teaching a court-based course around community-led products when a lot of these DAO conversations are starting, and I was like looking at the stuff that I'm teaching, and I said, okay, a lot of these principles apply in Web3, except that there's some more things like when you start thinking about on-chain transactions like governance or voting. Those are things that you cannot do in Web 2. But in practice, people dynamics, in terms of having more ownership, uh, having the flexibility to jump in anytime to contribute, is something that I've been pushing for, or I've been doing in the startup as well. So as much as I can, at least. So yeah, when I first saw that, I said, okay, this is like a natural extension of what I've been doing, except that instead of doing a Web 2 product, I'm doing things on Web 3, which is parallel, and that has some technology counterparts, right? So yeah, and then I also thought that okay, this is going to be really messy because if people don't understand how to design a system or uh, like create a guide that will help people jump in and out, then it's going to be very hard. And that's exactly what's happening. And I don't have all the answers there, but I think it's interesting to see it from an outsider's perspective, transitioning into someone who's now working on one.
Yes, I mean, not only you, but many other thought leaders in the community in Ethereum or whatever in the blockchain space are thinking about decentralized governance and how we can just make it more efficient. Because right now we are having like token voting, and that is kind of hurtful to some extent for other DAOs because a whale can come in and just buy a lot of tokens and have a lot of voting power. And that I think is not serving the community. And what are some of the things that you have seen in DAOs that you think should be replaced?
Well, you did mention one, so I find it odd that the more tokens you have, the bigger your voice set, right? So if it's truly decentralized, then at least there should be some parity between people who are investing, contributing, and people who are just like learning, so to speak. So I think that can be improved. The second one is just the like figuring out a way to have a more well-defined set of resources. So I think right now we want to be there's pros and cons in letting people like contribute freely because that also means that they can leave whatever you want. So if like in a DAO, like people like I lead the community pod in one DAO and they don't report to me, so I cannot like force them to like do the task because everyone is volunteer based, and you cannot like hold people accountable unless you ask them to sign up for like for that season with clear incentive towards the end, right? So and even that's really hard to do because most people are part-time. So like in summary, it's the governance and voting, and then the second one is accountability and yeah, resources.
Yeah, I guess that's how DAOs are built, you know. Contributors just jump in and say that, hey, I want to contribute to this DAO, and a lot of the things are pretty like interesting problems to solve, like this coordination problem that we are solving in Web3. And yeah, on the other hand, not only for DAOs but also for NFTs, I think uh, community is a really big thing. Like whales owning a project, or a celebrity just coming and saying that yeah they own an NFT from somewhere, like, and just a passionate community. All of that kind of like drive the price of the token and also the growth of the community. And like we saw some like really cool experiments like the Loot project, which was completely built by the community. So I think it's a pretty good estimation to say that NFTs are driven by their community. What is your take on like the gold rush that we had in 2021 for NFTs? How much do you think communities contributed to that?
Oh, what do I think? Well, I don't know when this will stop. Hopefully, it slows down and be more of a hype, less of a hype and more of the technology and the building aspect of things. Because right now, yeah, of course, a lot of people are trying to make money because there's just this very different model when you go into Web3, whether it's airdrops, tokens, or like the volatility of the crypto coins, right? So I think naturally people would want to uh, benefit from that. So I understand what's happening as well. But my impression is I think it's a very exciting time for people to experiment. I love the optimism and the energy that people are bringing in. So all in all, I think it's good to participate uh, because we are in the forefront of something that is really new, and I like personally I feel like finally I have the chance to ride the first wave as an owner as opposed to a passenger, and that's something that we should all think about, right?
Yeah, I guess like the analogy that people make is like Web 1 was like newspapers coming to the internet, and Web 2 was um, kind of like developing user experience for people to come in, but centralized um, products and kind of like a top down perspective. And then Web3 comes in and it's like a bottoms up thing, and it's all about people and the community that we are building. So, like, the state of Web3 today is pretty similar to where Web2 was back in like in the 2010s, when like Twitter and Facebook were all like starting or were just taking off. And a lot of things are very experimental. So, and DAOs are one of them. So, what do you think this experiments are actually um, contributing to the state of Web3? Like, and how will they change in the future? Because like Facebook back in the 2011 probably is very different than Facebook today, and sort of from a user experience. And of course, DAOs will also be very different. So, what are the lessons that you think DAOs will learn?
Oh, that's a good one. I think we will have a better understanding of where in the spectrum between truly decentralized versus centralized ownership is, because like I feel like people are thinking that it's binary, but actually it's not. So even in DAOs, like it's not really completely flat, right? You have leaders and pod leaders making sure that things get done, because if you don't have anyone pushing for it, nothing. I think it's going to be very messy. So in the DAOs that I'm part of, that's the case. It's not really as if there's no leader posting announcements or updates. There is still someone. So I think that's the biggest one. It's you want everyone to contribute as much as you can, but you're limited by either the funding or just the dynamics. So someone has to step up. I think that is key. Yeah, and that will lead to other realization that things are not always black or white. It's somewhere along the spectrum, though it skews towards the decentralized part. So that's my perspective.
Yes. Yeah, and you mentioned the DAO that you're joining several times. So, could you please tell us more about what you're up to right now? And yeah, what is this DAO about?
Sure. So I am part of uh, Odyssey DAO. Number one, it's the mission of that DAO is to help onboard at least 1 million people to Web3. So it's very it's very much of a learning DAO, and my role there is leading community team. So I am responsible for taking care of our community experience, whether it's Discord or outside. But I just started that, so we just started the planning phase and the season initiatives. So hopefully we have more events, workshops, and invite more people into our community. So that's one. I was a little bit more active in another one called DAO Masters, and that one has a mission to onboard 1 million DAO operators into DAOs. So the goal of these two DAOs are actually very parallel, because it's bringing individuals and organizations into the DAO world. For that one, I played a very short stint as a marketing lead because the role was open and no one was stepping up. So I raised my hand and tried it. So it was a fun and good learning experience to play the marketing hat as well, especially given my community background.
Yeah, I think for DAOs, community is all about like marketing is all about their community actually, and it's like a two-way street. Like both of them contribute together and grow the DAO itself. So it's pretty incredible. What were some of the like lessons that you learned during this time with your experience in DAOs?
It's very similar to what we covered in the past. And by the way, I agree with what you said. It's like the community markets itself, which is kind of interesting. Which is like one step beyond community led initiatives in Web two. But going back to your question, lesson one, it's really hard to do something if you're always pushing for consensus. So as simple as publishing content, right? If you're waiting for people to say yes to it, nothing gets done. So there was a few times where I just went for it, and I felt better doing that, knowing that there's an outcome that is faster rather than waiting. So that one is for sure the biggest one. The second one is just focus. So like I think in Q4 a lot of people were joining and jumping around different discords. I did that too. In fact, I still like many people, I have a lot of Discord open. But the more I am in one, the more I realize that it's better to focus on few things in one DAO, see through it, and actually execute and get things done. because that's the best way to learn. So actually, that second learning isn't really a Web3 thing. It's like prioritization and focus is key, right? But I think that's even more important in a world where there's less boundaries, because if not, it's very easy to get distracted.
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Less boundaries, less regulation, and all of that just contribute to the fact that like we're facing this challenge of incentivizing people the right way and actually also having the acceleration that some of the like startups have and keep building and making progress. So it's really just you touched on a very good point, which was that if we're gonna like if I'm gonna paraphrase this, I will say that if we're gonna put everything into voting for everyone, it's gonna take ages to make something happen. Is that what you're trying to say?
Correct.
Yeah. So what is on the top of your mind? And I don't want to like a very deep question, totally not, but just like a what's on the top of your mind? What do you think can solve this problem? Is it like representative democracy of some point, like having people vote for somebody and that somebody is like responsible for voting for this thing, and that's kind of like making things a bit more accelerated? Or yeah, what's your take on it? How can we solve this problem?
I think it starts with number one, trying to reach out and improve communication and transparency, right? So, for example, in Discord, not everyone is there, so I'm planning to push out an onboarding form where I can ask them optional if they want to include their email address so that we can communicate to them even if they're not checking Discord, because I'm that's a very tactical way to make sure that we reach out to people as far and wide as possible, because without that, then participation will not improve, right? So it's actually like a funnel. Like, number one, did you reach out to as many people as possible? So that can be improved. Number two is, did you build a way for them to participate in as much in as many ways as possible? So an example of what you can do there is to publicly share your document, and then uh, uh, share that alongside your communication, right? So a lot of DAOs are doing this because of transparency, but I think people still miss it because either they don't understand that they have to participate, or they they see it, but or they miss it. So people don't see that, oh, actually there's a doc, because like it's very hard to see all the stuff going on in one Discord, right? And I'm saying Discord because, as we know, most DAOs are there. So that's another one. As a fix for that, I'm thinking of maybe creating a forum, or uh, uh, creating a dedicated section where people can look at it, and then combining that with the first approach of reaching out to them more directly via email. So these are some of the things that you can do to encourage more people to pay attention, participate, reach out. That will lead to a more decentralized way of running the group, as opposed to very few people looking at it. And I know it's easier said than done. I don't have a perfect answer for it, but I'm going to try a few things to see if people will feel that we've uh, we've done our best to get the word out as much as we can.
Yeah, I mean, we are all with Web3 doing something that has never been done before with the internet. So it's all about like trial and error and just experimenting with so many different stuff so that one will catch someday. So that's um, I think, pretty good thing to start for any DAO that like has started before or is looking to start. Like it's really crucial to have everyone participate fully.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um, where can people reach out to you? Because you touched on some really amazing things, and yeah, the DAO space is pretty huge right now. So, um, where can people find you?
Yeah, sure. So Twitter is the best way to find me. It's Mark Tan FT, and LinkedIn. So my name, and yeah, and the DAOs that I mentioned earlier is what I'm active for Odyssey. For sure, will be there. uh, uh, till March at least. That's where the season. That's where the first season ends. And then who knows, second half of the year, because things move really fast. So I might be in different DAOs doing other things, right? So the best way is Twitter and LinkedIn.
Yeah. Any final thoughts for our audience?
I mean, if you're listening to this one, definitely you're interested in the space. You probably have been here as well. I encourage people to just get out there and don't be afraid to try things. So I think people get really overwhelmed or intimidated by the stuff that is happening because it's very noisy and like everyone's talking about it. My advice is go in, uh, like pick up one specific task or one specific area that you're super passionate about, and then try to do it. Whether it's building the app, whether it's joining a DAO, try start really small. Is what I'm saying here.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Thank you so much, Mark, for talking with us today. Thank you, everyone, for listening to this. I'm Kazal from NFC Go, and this was our interview with Mark Tan. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you.